honored. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. Quick way of introductions. Hi, it's me. I'm the speaker. It's me. I like to think of myself marketer, runner, mother, amateur Swiftie in no particular order. I've had a really long and varied career journey. I've done everything from dental school admissions and lobbying Congress to fund oral health care, to editing a cookbook, and then through a confluence of forces, had the good fortune to become product marketing lead for a number of APIs in ad tech, which led me into this incredible space of developer relations and developer marketing. While it may seem nonlinear, there really is a through line, which is having the opportunity to build programs and experiences that connect people to the information that they need to make good decisions and be successful, whether that's spending $250,000 on where they're going to go to dental school, inspiring advertisers to have measurable and strategic ad campaigns, or well-cooked meals, or most importantly, to get developers the information they need to trust a product and to use a product successfully. So when Gary presented me with the topic of we need developers, the first thing that came to mind was Field of Dreams. So I'll give you a TLDR on that movie in a minute for those of you who haven't seen it. But I really like telling stories in two ways. One is through metaphors and analogies. I'm a really strong believer that incredible leadership information really surrounds us in the world. That yes, there's immense value that can come from MBA programs and business textbooks. And I also really believe that incredible lessons can come from Taylor Swift and Star Wars and Jane Austen, and fairy tales and Dungeons and Dragons and the like. And so since I was like, oh, there's this baseball metaphor that I'm working with now. It happens to be sports ball season. Just a show of hands, who's a sports ball fan of some ilk in the room? Who's like, oh my gosh, not another sports ball analogy. Be honest, it's okay. I'm gonna do my best to make sure that the metaphors that are used throughout this will carry through to anyone, regardless of whether or not they can name who's in the playoffs. The second is, in past years, Slash Data, the research firm, used to host a developer leadership summit, and they would always challenge speakers to not just do successful case studies, but to do case studies that reflect a growth mindset. And so that's what I'm hoping to share today as well, is not just the victories that perhaps I've had on the field, but some of those really humbling moments as well. So for those who have not seen the movie Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner, kind of late 80s, early 90s. We're going to kind of go to a cornfield right now. And in this movie, the titular character, Ray Kinsella, he hears this line, if you build it, he will come, kind of coming out of a cornfield. And this compels him to literally spend the entire movie building a baseball field in a cornfield that is supposed to bring back legendary baseball players who apparently never got to live out their dreams. It was this motivation of building for personal healing and a return to innocence and joy. It also involved moving through time and talking to ghosts. If you haven't seen it, great movie, has a happy ending. The dream is a success. I also wrote this subject line just kind of ironically the day James Earl Jones passed away. He's also in this movie, so if nothing else, it's worth honoring his legacy watching this movie. But the truth of the matter is, we're functioning in a space of field realities. We are compelled, similarly, to build amazing things that bring joy, that solve problems. Perhaps not a baseball field, but developer tools. But we also don't have ghosts or Hollywood magic. We can't defy the laws of physics and time. So we actually have to do the work to make that dream a reality. And so outside of cinema magic and storytelling, if we develop the perfect documentation, write the meaningful article, will developers come? What are we building for, and what is our happy ending in this? If we can't necessarily travel through time, how do we actually go about making a plan that allows us to achieve these goals without ghosts and so forth? So that's what we're going to cover today. How do we turn these developer adoption dreams into reality? So let's play some ball. We're going to start with preseason training. We're going to make sure that we're warmed up, that we have a team strategy, that we have a plan going into the season. Then we're going to get into the regular season and go through 3 go-to-market lessons around awareness, consideration, and acquisition. Some of them are going to be a swing and a miss. Some of them are going to knock it out of the park. And then finally, the playoffs. We had a great season. We're going to head into the playoffs. How do we make sure that we win in the home stretch? There are 2 fundamental foundational rubrics, if you will, that I would like to share that really form the foundation of these case studies. The first, again, is that nod to the developer persona, acknowledging that there are nuances within different types of users based on geography, based on front end, back end, based on type of technology that they're building for, experience and so forth. There are some core traits of developers that really frame the decisions that went into the campaigns and programs that are highlighted here in terms of technical skills, problem-solving mindset, that desire for continuous learning, creative solutions, collaboration, aversion to marketing, but that's another lesson for another time. But these are really some of those foundational persona attributes that will flow throughout this presentation. The second is a flywheel. There are various models of this out in the market. As I was framing this, Catchy's flywheel, they're not paying me to say this, don't worry. But I really found that it held incredibly strong as thinking about the developer journey and doing it in a really methodical, data-informed way. So for the spirit of this session, for the preseason, we're going to be looking specifically at the primary research stage of the discovery phase. We will go completely through go-to-market since this is about developer acquisition. And then at the end, we'll give a little bit of a nod to the growth phase with community building. So let's get into it. Let's start our season. We're going to start from that place of the importance in that primary research phase, and I'm going to talk about a lesson from my time at Asana where we used a program called Voice of Customer in our product development. And when I looked back at the flywheel, primary research was really around answering any final questions about the developer audience, views, and how they'll be engaging with the product or platform. Asana used a product development methodology called the double diamond. Sorry, bad baseball analogy there. What I really like about this methodology, and the reason that I wanted to share it here, is it has what I call the 3 C's: collaboration, cross-functionality, and consensus-driven. That's really how we executed it while we were at Asana. And at the core of this double diamond process is the human, is the person. And so if we're really thinking about that primary research stage and we're really thinking about how do we make sure that we're really vetting and stress testing and so forth, double diamond is an incredible way to do that. How did we bring that human centricity into the double diamond? There were a lot of different programs. We did user experience research as part of that. We had an incredibly robust business product alignment program. But what was really at the core of that was Voice of Customer, which was really a bi-directional program. It was actually a fully staffed, really robust program that went hand in hand with that double diamond process. And what we would do is use all of those inputs and intakes from the customer. And we had, in this, when we say customer, there was both the front end user of the SaaS product as well as the developer. That was a lens with which we looked at the Voice of Customer. We would have input coming, and it was really robustly monitored and tracked. A lot of it was automated. It was surveys, forum activity, customer conversations, social media. There was then a synthesis where it was looking at all of that information coming in alignment with the current roadmap, capacity, talent, and broader business priorities. And then again, that isn't where it stopped. There then was the output, which was the actual influence on the product roadmap strategy. It would give input into all of the stages of the double diamond process that were the stress tests and gut checks with the humans involved. And in addition, we really made a commitment that, again, it was a two-way conversation, that it wasn't just intaking the information from the customers, but it was being transparent, sharing back out with the customers about decisions that were made and how the roadmap was progressing. And so then we put together, the playbook, the team, the plan that we were going to go into the season with. And the circled areas here, which are initial insight, customer empathy, planning, and user testing, are those insertion points where we would look at the conversations coming in from customers, whether it was one-on-one, whether it was from beta testing, whether it was from surveys and so forth. And there was never a point in time where we were moving forward in this product development process without pausing and saying, how are we doing? Have we solved the right problems, and have we solved them in the right way? And what it really meant is either we had that validation as we were moving through the process and as we were getting to go to market, that we were building the right solutions for the right problems, or if there was a time that it was going to be a contentious decision, that we knew what those friction points were going to be, and we could plan and address them accordingly. And so how are we looking heading into the season? What were some of the successes and lessons that came out of this? The first is this improved trust and credibility. A great example of this was a new developer product that we were going to put into market, and folks were ready to go GA. They were ready for go-to-market to be general availability, and we were able to pause and say, the naming paradigm isn't making sense for people, and they're really, really nervous about putting this into production without some gates and measures in place. It doesn't feel fully baked. And we actually used that as an opportunity to revisit the nomenclature as well as to put a beta label on it. The second is it was an opportunity to elevate the importance of critical solutions that were able to move the needle with priority customer profiles, particularly because we were looking to move up market. In the infrastructure and security space, there were certain things that weren't in place yet. And bringing voice of customer into the double diamond process allowed us to elevate the priority of some of those solutions, such as expanding the footprint of data centers, introducing enterprise key management, and so forth. And then finally, all of this increased the likelihood of product adoption because we were listening to the customer, we were really understanding where those friction points were and the right ways to solve them. So this all kind of leads us, we did that early stage primary research that set us up really elegantly to go into the regular season. So these are the go-to-market lessons. It's like, the first thing that you want to do to make sure that you're going to get developers is to build the things that are going to solve the problems that are identified, and that you solve them in these really simple and elegant ways. Again, simplicity. So what does this actually look like? So the first case study here, which is that awareness phase, is what I call a swing and a miss. So what is the setting here? This was when I was working in cloud computing, and we had a new offering that we wanted to bring to market that allowed a customer's company, their SQL server, to run on a competitor's compute engine. And the reason that we were doing this is we were not the leader in the marketplace, and we were really leaning into multi-cloud solutions as a way to get the foot in the door with companies that were established on one platform. We decided to do so by sponsoring an event. We thought, this is a great way to get awareness. Let's get in front of who we think are the developers and key customers for this product. And so we went ahead with, I'd say, a mid-sized booth sponsorship, and then filled it out with technical demos and code labs, which was kind of our playbook at the time. And we got a lot of this. They were very polite and they were curious, but there was a lot of, why are you here? And it was humbling, I won't lie. You put a lot of work into something, you're like, we're here to build awareness. And we struck out, if I'm being honest. The technical demo focused on cloud, and at this point in time, this was back in 2017, this particular audience was doing the vast majority of their work on-prem. It was, cloud security has advanced substantially in the last 7 years, but at the time, security and control were big concerns for some of the very, very controlled industries, and they're like, no. The second is for the folks that were in the cloud, they actually didn't even know that the brand had solutions for them. So we're like, consider this very niche thing. And they're like, wait, like back 50 steps up, like you're in the cloud. And then the third is we jumped them right into hands-on. And there's this great expression from the head of DevRel at HashiCorp, which is why try, buy, fly. And we put them in the try phase when they weren't even ready to hear the why. And so we were truthfully a little leaguer playing in the major leagues. And what we didn't do is understand the channel better, start smaller, and respect the competition. And so those were the lessons that we learned around awareness. But we learned, and so we moved on to consideration. And this is what I like to call the comeback. So setting for this one is working on a product that had new platform capabilities for a SaaS product. So it was the platform extension of the product. And it was really a paradigm shift in how we were asking developers to build solutions. And the reason that we were doing this, going back to that product development process, we found that the way folks were building apps was incredibly limited. And we wanted to offer greater flexibility to allow for more efficient and more use case centric development. We had a pretty standard go-to-market playbook at that point. We were doing webinars, videos, had a beta program. We were doing labs at event. Like at that point, we felt like, okay, they kind of get the why. We're ready to go on to the try phase. We had sample applications. And we did all of these. What was at the core of that plan was inspiration through delightful hello world experiences and demos of real world use cases. So we're like, okay, great. Like, they're aware, they're considering, we have a really solid go-to-market playbook here. And honestly, we were heading into the 9th inning and we were down. And why? They're like, this is delightful, but I don't know what to build and I don't have a way to try it. So it's kind of like, okay, like we're not gonna win this game the way that we're going right now. So what did we do? We said, uh-oh, and then we had a come from behind rally. And how did we rally? We recognized that going back to that developer persona, like there isn't necessarily a huge amount of trust out of the gate. They want to actually touch and play around with things in a safe, controlled environment to figure it out, to see if they're ready to move from try to buy. The second is they're developers. They're skeptical of anything that's gated, unsecure, or has a potential cost associated with it. And so what we were able to do is kind of get back into the dugout, get our heads down and say, like, how are we going to fix this so that we can actually move people from the try to buy phase in a trustworthy way? And we recognized that we needed to build a sandbox and provide additional valuable resources that had minimal friction and minimal risk to the company as well. Just as a caveat, it's very easy to say build a sandbox, and then anyone who's ever had anything where there's credits based or so forth, there's a huge amount of fraud associated with it. And so finding that elegant solution where you can provide that really robust hands-on experience without creating additional problems for the company is really, really important. It was great. We were initially overconfident against that opponent, but we regrouped, refocused, and were able to rally in the 9th, or rally at the end of the game, rally in whatever competition we're in. We needed to really respect what is needed for developers to try and be convinced of something new. And we needed to create a solution that wouldn't add more barriers or friction points so that they could kind of continue moving along that virtuous cycle. Alrighty, acquisition, which is that last stage of the go-to-market phase, which is putting together the perfect game. And so what's the setting for this case study? Is we wanted to establish a new product, as a market leader for a managed container solution, while recognizing open source community commitments that we had made. And why did we want to do this? It was a very crowded cloud platform space, and we really believed that this solution was a strength and a differentiator for our company. So how did we do it? Going back to events. Events is my bread and butter in the developer program space, so you're going to hear a lot about events. Leading sponsorship at a flagship industry event. And the way that we brought that plan to life is we had incredibly strong internal cross-functional planning with clear goals and upfront measurement strategy. And if you go back to the Catchy flywheel, what they really emphasize with this acquisition phase is making sure that what you're doing is actually tied back to being able to track not just being able to track, but to be able to track the the measurements that are really, really important to your business bottom line. So that was really baked in at the core. And how'd we do? People let us scan their badges. They're like, great. And while this may sound flippant, what it is that was the key piece that was able to start connecting the information into the lead capture and the marketing influence pipeline so that we were able to then demonstrate impact. So in this case, teamwork made the dream work. We recognized the necessity of having a strong commercial presence in what had historically been an open source space because of its value to contributing to those core business objectives. Through that comprehensive acquisition strategy at the event connected to that marketing funnel, we were able to track and measure alongside other campaigns and programs that were part of this product's go-to-market strategy. And our influence revenue goals were exceeded, and we were the top performing campaign for that product in region for that particular quarter. It was really by working as a team to knock it out of the park. We had clarity on the goals and roles and responsibilities up front. We were very transparent about our commercial offerings. If they were asking the question of why are you here, we were able to answer it. And we had very developer-centric content and trusted staff, again, going back to knowing that developer persona. And most importantly, we ensured that the work we were doing was connected to the larger marketing and revenue apparatus. So, yay, we knocked it out of the park. That last game sent us into the playoff season. And so one last super quick case study here, which is it's great that we've gotten that flywheel going. We understood the problem space. We built for the problem space. And through that why, try, buy, we were able to have a successful go-to-market. It's kind of great, now what? In digging through a whole handful of the developer flywheel models, all of which talk about community as a conduit for growth, these are really the patterns that I saw in how it does that, is when you have those best-in-class experiences and it makes acquisition sticky, then you get to the point where how do you then scale? If you have growth, you then need to be able to scale, which is where community comes in. And then those principles of community are problem solving and innovation inspired by collaboration, inclusivity, and participation. And out of that really comes builders, champions, and advocates that make that wheel fly. So we're gonna creatively yell into a megaphone, which is the growth example here. What we were challenged with doing is building connection between events in a global community-driven series. And why was this important? It brought efficiency, consistency, inspiration, momentum, reach, and public celebration, which is again a key piece of the developer persona. All of this strengthened brand affinity, which starts to get into those pieces of scale. It starts to get into those pieces of celebration that are going to lead to champions. How did we do this? We made a round the globe social media strategy, and that was by building a tiger team. So we had around the clock coverage of account monitoring and posting, and we used social listening tools for sentiment and reporting to back up the work we were doing. And the fans went wild. We saw multi-fold growth in the social media account that we were primarily using to drive this campaign. It actually was the top trending hashtag across the entire company for a week. And it really became a public way to celebrate the accomplishments of the exemplary community programming, all really feeding into those strengths and values that a community can provide to growth. So we're the champions, yay, we won. And the way that we did this was by building a scalable, sustainable global program. We were really intentional in how we engaged to elevate, honor, and connect the communities. And we baked in monitoring and reporting to show growth and impact. Alrighty, we're gonna get to the conclusion here. We had a successful preseason, regular season, playoffs. Now it's time to rest and reflect. So what did we learn from this? What are the go-to-market leadership lessons from pick your favorite sports ball? The first is by using voice of customer and double diamond to warm the team up, you can be set up for success in the go-to-market season. Being humble about the product's place in the league, adjusting strategy if the game isn't going to plan, And working together as a goals-driven team can allow you to have a successful regular season. And finally, you can propel that growth into the playoffs by giving your fans a megaphone and being a megaphone for them. That is me. Thank you very much for listening.